What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. A lot has happened since the last time Matt and I recorded a podcast, including an absolutely insane 48 hours of basketball to kick off the conference finals in the NBA. Lots to talk about today, including a massive New York Knicks comeback in Game 1, Victor Wembanyama taking over as potentially the greatest basketball player we have ever seen at the tender age of 22 or 23 or whatever he is. Matt's favorite team, the Pistons, were eliminated in a Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers and have a lot of crucial decisions to make about their future. So lots to get to on the podcast today. Hopefully the lighting in my recording area calms down at some point. It is extremely ethereal in here. You can probably see that if you're watching the pod on YouTube. Kind of looks like I'm recording from heaven. So hopefully we can get that under control at some point. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening. We always love to hear from you. Hit me up. You guys want to talk? World Cup starts in a couple weeks. We are in the conference finals for the Stanley Cup as well. The Avs and the Knights are tipping off tonight. We're also recording this podcast we're starting 12 minutes before Spurs Thunder Game 2, which should be an awesome second game. I really am hoping this series goes the distance because Game 1 was one of the best basketball games I've ever watched. But you want to talk all of the things, hit me up. You won't get spam or a newsletter back, just an email from me. And however you guys are supporting the podcast, really appreciate you. If you haven't checked it out on YouTube, go search Fouled Out on YouTube. Give us a like and subscribe over there to grow that. But for now, let's grab Matt. Let's talk basketball. Let's go. All right, Matt is here, fresh off of probably the best 48 hours of basketball that we've had in quite some time. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I mean, I prefer 48 hours that involve my team winning.
Yeah. Well, for some of us, 48 hours is not a reality. So we have to enjoy the other teams playing. I was thinking about this during Spurs Thunder Game 1 the other day, and we are talking as Game 2 is tipping off here. So by the time you guys hear this, you'll know the results of that game. But when basketball is at its peak, I honestly think it is the most entertaining sport. Like, I think peak basketball is better than peak football or baseball or hockey. Like that Spurs Thunder game, Game 1 the other day, was the best sporting event I've watched in years. Like, absolutely incredible game, better than any NFL game that I watched this past season. And my team was really good at football, and this was still more entertaining.
The high-speed pace of the NBA game, when it is really clicking, is something that, as great as football is, and I would point to their profit margins as a pretty strong indicator of how great football is as a sport. In the NFL, football just can't match that. Like in a one-off, in an isolated moment, like it cannot meet that because, like, you can see like 3 plays in a matter of 60 seconds or less that you didn't even think were possible. Like,
well, I think the thing about football is that it is consistently good.
Yeah.
Like every single week of NFL football is good. It's entertaining. There's good games. There's stakes. There's meaning. There's fantasy football to get into. Like it's just good every week. And then there are times, multiple points throughout the season where it is awesome. The problem with the NBA is that, like, yes, Game 1 of Spurs Thunder was peak. And I expect the whole series to be peak. And it was followed up by another amazing Eastern Conference Finals game yesterday. But the absolute slog that we have had to go through to get to this point of like an 82-game season where all we talked about all year was tanking, and we've just been waiting for this series basically for, I don't know, ever since we found out the Spurs were good and that Victor Wembanyama had ascended to the next level. we've just been waiting for Thunder Spurs for so long. And then like to finally get it and have it be like at least the first game be that good is like it's like such a payoff, you know? But it's like a movie that is extremely boring for like an hour and a half to set up like an amazing last half hour of the movie, where football is just like, it's a great movie the whole way. It's just absolutely fantastic. So I think that's why it's more popular. But the thing that's so great about peak basketball, and especially like that game one, is, you know, not only are there stakes to this series of these teams are probably going to see each other for the foreseeable future, right? Like neither of these teams is really going anywhere. You have two, probably like arguably the two best players in the world, at least two of the three best players in the world, with Shea and Wemby, and the two of them just going at it. Like this is what we used to talk about all the time when we were kids, is like you had to watch Cavaliers Nuggets when we were kids because you just knew LeBron and Carmelo Anthony were going to be going at it, and it was going to be a duel the entire game. Watching
I don't
down
think we
the
were
stretch
kids, but
2004 through 2010, I guess. Seems like a lifetime ago. It's like half of our life ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like the Warriors didn't hit until like 2012, 2014.
Watching Wemby and Shea just like go back and forth, making huge plays, like it. A lot of basketball games, the ending is also like a huge issue where it's just like, you know, oh, we're fouling and we're trying to get the ball back, and there's a ton of timeouts and a ton of reviews. This game was so peak because there was like no stoppages. There was some timeouts to call plays and stuff, but there was no reviews. There was no fouling. It was just like Spurs score, Thunder answer, Spurs score, like Thunder answer, Thunder score, Spurs answer.
Yeah.
And it went on like that from the last like 5 minutes of regulation through both overtimes until the Spurs finally like pulled away enough in overtime number 2.
Yeah. No, it was quite frankly the best game of the year. Like full stop. So
by far. And I'm super interested to see what adjustments Oklahoma City makes tonight. So, like I said, the game is about to tip off right now. So you guys will know the results of this by the time this podcast comes out tomorrow. But my expectation is that Oklahoma City bounces back and wins game 2, especially because I think this series is going 7. I've been saying for a while I was leaning Oklahoma City in 7. However, they have no answer for Victor Wembanyama. Like he's not going to drop 41 and 24 on them every game of this series, I would presume. I guess if he does, then there's a different conversation we need to have on this podcast.
At that point, I have my goat. Like,
yeah. Well, I want to talk about that in a minute because there is some stuff floating around about him that we need to discuss. But the problem with Wemby in this series, and I talked about this with you last week, is I was like talking about this series with my dad, and he was like, do the Thunder have an answer for Wemby? And I was really thinking about it, and I was like, no. And it came to fruition in game 1, like immediately. He played Hartenstein off the floor within the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. Hartenstein only ended up playing 12. They can't put Holmgren on him because Holmgren needs to play like that free safety for them, for their defense to work. So he can't go one-on-one with Wemby. And after that, they were like, okay, well, here's taller Jalen Williams. Here's like, at one point they put Caruso on him. That like, so they did that to Jokic last year.
Yeah.
And it like Jokic figured it out, but it was really difficult for him. Wemby just looked at the fact that Caruso was on him and like basically laughed and threw his hand up, and he's like, give me the ball. No way. And he just abused Caruso in the
like
paint.
2 feet on the guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also like, I want to give props to Caruso though. He dropped 31 in game 1. He hit 8 threes.
Yeah. That helps.
And also had to guard Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is guarding Victor Wembanyama on one end, and then is the only Thunder player outside of J-Dub and Shea to score in double digits, and he put up 31, which is a playoff career high.
Yeah, no, like props to him on his play. I still think he's a gigantic cunt for thinking that he can tell a ref to call a tech, and then the ref's a bigger cunt for doing it. But that's literally being fed to a meat grinder and like not flinching at it. So like you got to give him credit.
The adjustments the Thunder make tonight are going to be interesting because Wemby dropped 41 and 24 on them. Dylan Harper, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 7 steals. And it's like, God, those are massive performances. But even with both of those performances occurring in the same game, it still went to double overtime, and the Spurs still barely won. Like, there was numerous chances for Oklahoma City to win that game. So this is very much like the discussion over the last couple of days since that happened has been like, the Spurs are the best team in the league, and this is, the Spurs dynasty is starting, and this is Victor Wembanyama's time to be the best player in the league, and all this stuff. And there's some truth to some of that stuff, but I think that this is still very much going to be a series between these two teams. And kind of what happens next is going to set the stage for the next 5 to 7 years of NBA basketball.
I know his numbers haven't been great, at least efficiency-wise, in the playoffs this year, but like, it took you 2 overtimes to beat OKC, and Shea had a pretty bad game offensively, even by the standards of the way that he's played in the playoffs. You have to expect that he's going to rebound to some degree. I would not look at this game as the baseline to expect what the Spurs are going to be able to do going forward in this series.
The interesting thing to me, though, is that Shea, J-Dub, and Alex Caruso were the only Thunder players to score in double digits.
Yeah.
And a large part of that is that while Victor Wembanyama was on the floor, they were shooting, I think it was like 30% at the rim.
Yeah.
And in the very small amount of time that he was off the floor, because he played 49 minutes, in the time he was off the floor, they were shooting over 50% at the rim. So when I see Shea struggling like that, I'm like, okay, how much is he was having an off game? Like, maybe they're a little bit rusty because they were sitting at home after sweeping the Lakers. And how much is like the same thing we've been talking about all year with Wemby, his length and ability in the paint to kind of be everywhere at once and protect the rim in a way that we've never seen in NBA history before. How much of that is like breaking what some of these guys are used to being able to do?
Yeah. Not to get into a flopping discussion. That's not what I want to do here, but like it is well known that Shea has a craft for trying to sell foul calls, right? And I think the method with which he does that actually is counterintuitive to how you want to attack Wemby. Like, you attack Wemby by going through him. Go through his center line. Like, because you're not getting around him. The reach is too good. Right? So, like, get into his chest and try to get calls that way. And, like, if you don't, a lot of times when you get into a shot blocker's chest anyways, they are not really in great position to actually, defend the shot because they're not used to that, right? There's going to have to be a switch flipped on how they attack him, because trying to get around him, trying to like be crafty with how you get the shot up at the rim, that's not going to work. It hasn't worked all season long for anyone. You're not going to be special. You have to go through him.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting with Shea in this series is aside from like the foul baiting stuff,
Yeah.
he is really, really proficient in the mid range.
Yep.
And I think like there was this kind of, it was almost like a switch flip in like game one where Shea gets the MVP before the game. And like Victor is like secretly stewing about like he's pissed that, Shea got the MVP and not him, which we got to talk about the Victor stuff in a minute. But I think there was like this, we are not afraid of Victor Wembanyama and we're going to attack him. And so Shea's going to try to get to the rim more. And like we're going to get more shots at the rim and we're going to like set the tone for this series. And what they quickly learned was no, it's not going to happen in the way that you would like it to. So now you have to adjust to how you attack in game two. And as I'm saying that, Shea just hit a mid-range jumper from the baseline. So I expect to see more of that like mid-range proficiency and not trying to bait fouls at the rim. The one thing I did want to talk about with Wemby is after game one. So like I said, 41 and 24 in game one to go with a couple blocks, couple assists. Like obviously for those who watch the game, also just clutch play after clutch play. The logo 3 that he hit to tie the game with like 20 seconds left in overtime is just an absolutely like all-time insane play for a 7'6" dude who just like he hadn't hit a 3 the entire game. He'd only taken one. He just pulls up and he's like, hey, here's a Steph Curry logo 3. Absolutely iconic. But I do think that he has the potential to become the greatest basketball player of all time. And also maybe the greatest team sports athlete that we have ever seen. If he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
It's going to be the biggest if with him at 7'6", but the way his body is built, it's kind of different from like other guys that we've seen above 7 feet, where he is essentially like a taller version of Kevin Durant with, how skinny he is and how like agile and mobile he is. So I think there is some hope that he can play like a long and healthy career. And I don't want to say this all to like overreact to game one and just be like, wow, he had a massive game. He's going to be the greatest player of all time. Like that's a stretch. But if you think about like the GOAT debate and you think about how like it's Jordan versus LeBron, right?
Yeah.
And we know the side of the argument we're on, but that is always going to be the argument. I've kind of always thought this, and I said this before Wemby was drafted on this podcast, so you guys can go back and listen to it. It almost is going to take someone like Victor Wembanyama, who is just like an absolute freak of nature, natural phenomenon, to be 7'6" and be able to do everything there is to do on a basketball court, like dribble like a guard, shoot threes, have unquantifiable defensive impact. Where he legitimately is someone that all of us can watch and just be like, this from the eye test, this is the greatest basketball player I have ever seen. And he's just scratching the surface of what he can be because he's 22 or 23 years old. But like I that's what it's going to take, I think, to like settle this GOAT debate, is just to have someone who is just like so undeniably freakishly unique that there is no denying like in what awards and accomplishments and what happens during his career may be the thing where like, if he doesn't win 6 rings, people will still be like, oh, Jordan's got the rings, or LeBron has the scoring records and the longevity. And, Wemby's probably not going to have that longevity. But like, if he has like this peak of just like, he is a phenomenal offensive player, like MVP caliber offensive player, and is just the greatest, like undeniably the greatest defensive player we have ever seen. Which he could be already. Like he's already up in that discussion with like Hakeem Olajuwon and like Bill Russell and some of these other guys because of the unquantifiable defensive impact he has. But like if you put those things together and he does it over a period of time and wins multiple championships, stuff like that, it could get to a point where we're just like, that's it. Like we've never seen anything like it. We will never see anything like it again.
I think up until Vic came onto the scene, LeBron stans would have told you that's what happened with him. But I think what we are seeing now really toes a picture of like, no. This is different. That wasn't different.
Yeah.
This is different.
Yeah, like LeBron was different just from the fact that like he is, just one of the best basketball players we've ever seen, and just was awesome right away. And like, but he was good. I mean, great, all-time great. He's, one of the top 3 players of all time. So I'm not trying to insult him, but like he was singularly excellent within the bounds of the sport as we understood it.
Yeah.
Right? Where like he's a great passer, he can score, he's a great defender. Like he is all around one of the best players we have ever seen. Victor has the potential to completely break the sport as we understand it.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a stat or a number that can quantify his defensive impact.
No.
Like it just doesn't exist. It hasn't been invented. And we can just look at these peripheral things of like, oh, Oklahoma City shot, 24% worse at the rim with Victor Wembanyama on the floor. That's insane. But there's no stat or number that can like truly capture what he does defensively. And then on top of that, he scores 41 points and 24 rebounds against the best fucking team in the league in the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending champions, the 1 seed in the West, in his first like really truly high leverage playoff game.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to say is like the best way to describe just how insane his defensive impact is, because you would never say this about any other player, but they need to be tracking the field goal percentage of players once they're within 10 feet of him.
Yeah.
Like 10 feet is so much space. Like no other player in the history of the league has ever impacted shots from 10 feet away.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of is something we've talked about before. Like when you have an elite corner like Darrelle Revis, where it's like, you're like, okay, well, we can't throw to that half of the field, or he's going to guard our best guy and we just can't throw to that guy the rest of the game. It reminds me of what we've talked about with Ed Reed, with prime Ed Reed, where we're like, half the field is taken away, but it's the back half.
Yes.
It's like, it's everything beyond 10 yards is gone. And so you have to play in this box from the line of scrimmage to 10, because anything beyond that, Ed Reed is shutting it down. And that's what like it feels like with Victor or with Wemby when he is, around the rim, like you said, like that 10-foot space
when he exists
around the rim. Yeah. Well, it's like we have to play from like the logo to the free throw line. And that's where we have to play. And we have to find more ways to score in that area, because everything beyond that, we're kind of fucked.
Yes.
We're going to be in a lot of trouble if we try to go beyond that. And that was like the kind of the same thing with Ed Reed. But like even Ed Reed, it wasn't like he was like a singularly great safety within the bounds of how we understood football. It wasn't like, oh shit, we just reinvented football on the fly because this guy was so good.
Yeah, like that's like for this year as an example, like Asar Thompson, right? And like other historical examples, Ben Wallace, Dikembe Mutombo, right? Like those are like your shutdown corners. This is an entirely different thing. Like
he kind of, instead of being Ed Reed, he's kind of just like the 2001 Ravens defense.
Yes.
Just the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle. But the thing about Wemby that really makes me think that he could, I think like, this is going to be seen as like the most overreactionary podcast we've ever done. But like, I've been talking about Wemby for probably 5 years now, because I was talking about him 2 years before he got drafted on this pod, and just saying like, dude, if this guy hits his potential, and like health and longevity and all those things are going to be a concern. But Victor Wembanyama has something that LeBron James never had, besides being 7'6". He has that edge that like we talk about with Tom Brady and Michael Jordan and like all of the greats. And I think that we saw numerous examples of that this season and in game one. So like in game one, they put Caruso on him. And I texted you this the other day. I was like, it kind of reminded me of when they put JJ Barea on LeBron in the finals, and it like broke LeBron's brain. And it's a really famous thing. It's like, oh, he had to learn, like, blah, blah, blah. They put Caruso on Wemby, and he just laughed and was like, give me the ball. Yeah. This is insulting that you would even try this. He also said, like, after the game that he was personally insulted that Shea won the MVP and not him. And, like, nobody thought you were going to win MVP this season, right? Like, it wasn't even really discussed. It was really just between Shea and Jokic, and, like, that's what the voting showed too. But it's that like everything is a slight against me. It's like, that's the MVP. I'm gonna go out there and annihilate.
His entire internal monologue is the Michael Jordan clip, and I took that personally.
That's it. Like he literally said the other day, he's like, I took that personally, and I was like, oh no, we haven't. But like this was always the thing with LeBron is that like, and obviously. Like he's had one of the greatest careers of all time. He's one of the best players of all time, but like he never had that like killer instinct kind of thing where like Wemby is legitimately just like, I do not care. I don't want to be friends with any of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. I want to dominate. And that happened, that came out during the All-Star game too. And that's everybody's like, oh, it's the format of the All-Star game. It's the blah, it's this, it's that. No, what made the All-Star game great this season is that Wemby came out and said, I'm the best player in the league. Fuck you guys. And everybody else was like, oh, hell no, you're not.
Yeah.
And it got really competitive because Wemby made it that way.
Yeah.
And that is like a 80s, 90s superstar, like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, like type of like, screw you guys. I'm going to win the 3-point competition without taking my jacket off.
So it's like
that's what Larry Bird did.
I don't want to like reinforce old thought processes that we all know are unhealthy now. The Banana Boat Boys was clearly good for the mental health of LeBron James and all his friends and all that. Men should have friends. It is good for men to have friends. What is not compelling in the NBA is for all the best players in the NBA to be friends with each other and just want to play together.
Yeah.
That is not compelling. And like that edge and a genuine rivalry between players like Isaiah and Jordan, right? Like was incredibly compelling. And having some of that back in the NBA is a good thing for it.
You need the counterbalance, I think, like the protagonist-antagonist relationship. Like, you had Magic and Bird, Jordan and the Pistons, and then, there was other rivals for Jordan as well. Like, this is the thing is, for LeBron, there was never like a great LeBron rivalry. People, I think, would say like the Warriors, but like Steph Curry and LeBron never felt like rivals. Maybe you could say Kevin Durant, but that Warriors team was so overpowered that they just dominated the Cavs. With Durant, like he played Durant in the finals multiple times. He played Kawhi in the finals. Curry obviously numerous times, but like there was never that like, I don't know, opposite force. And I think that's going to be like the nice thing over the next couple of years is like, last year we were kind of feeling like, oh shit, man, the Thunder are just going to dominate the league for however long. And now we have this opposite opposing force of the San Antonio Spurs and Victor Wembanyama where we're like, oh shit, like this could develop into a really good rivalry over the next however many years. Or Victor Wembanyama could just absolutely annihilate them. We're just going to be sitting here and being like, well, just time to just watch Victor dominate the league every year that he's healthy and plays more than 65 games. Here we go. And that's like the warning I want to give people is just like, as cool and new and shiny as this is right now, you're all going to hate this guy. And many, everybody's like, it'll turn. Everybody, it happens with everybody. They'll all turn on him.
The thing that they're going to point to, too, like, it's already there. Like, he's already a big flopper.
I thought you were going to say he's French. You're just like, you don't like this guy. He's French.
That's it. But, like, that's going to be, like, the basketball thing that people are going to point to is when they finally, like, are sick of him, then they'll start noticing that he flops. Yeah. And then it'll be an issue for them.
People will be like, he's not really nice to the other players, and we don't really like that. Like, all the things that people love about him right now will be all the things that people hate about him as he wins numerous championships, and people get bored of him and ready to go on to the next thing.
What I will say is the NBA is entertainment. It is also sport, right? We want there to be legitimate competition, that the league doesn't marionette itself, as I would argue they are. I mean, with entertainment, in a story, like, how would you design your antagonist, right? What are the personality traits that you would give them? Probably French. A lot of shit that he's already doing, right? French and not nice.
It's the classic, like, WWF trope of, like, we need a bad guy. What do we do? And they're like, make him foreign. Everybody will hate him. It'll be fine. Well,
just give him a turban.
As like a neutral observer of this series, the Thunder and the Spurs, I don't look at either of these teams as the good guy. I look at it more as, like, in anime, sometimes you will get fights or, like, arcs of villain versus villain. And sometimes those are the best arcs where you're just like, I'm not rooting for either of these guys, but this is going to be dope as hell.
Yeah.
Like, some of the best anime fights are villain versus villain.
This is how I look at it is we are watching these two kaijus fight to figure out which one we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, we're probably going to have to deal with both of them, unfortunately. This is the thing. I've never been so happy that my team sucks, because I'm looking at, like, the Wolves. Like, the Wolves president came out today and was like, we are going to do whatever it is we need to do to get to the next level. Like, we want to be amongst the contenders. We've seen what that looks like, and we're going to be very aggressive in getting there. If you're, like, that next tier down of contenders right now, there's no hope. Because, like, if it was just the Spurs, you could be like, well, you never know. Victor Wembanyama is 7'6". He might get hurt. And then without him, like, we'll see. But if he's not there, you got to deal with the Thunder.
Yeah.
And I think the only hope that, like, other teams can have is basically, like, to be in the East and be like, well, maybe this will be a 7-game series and just be such an absolutely brutal war that whatever team comes out of it will be completely worn out and we can take them. But watching game 1 of the Western Conference Finals and then watching game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm like, these teams aren't playing the same sport right now.
No,
it's just it's like a completely different level of these two teams in the West, and I'm not going to go so far as to say that, like, whoever wins the Western Conference Finals is going to sweep whoever wins the Eastern Conference Finals.
I will, but
well, just because I learned my lesson from last year where we were on this podcast going, like, can we pick Oklahoma City in 3? Like, do we have to even play 4 games? They're going to absolutely annihilate the Pacers. And then they gave Oklahoma City everything they could handle and more last year.
Yeah. I feel like these teams don't have that heart. So
yeah, well,
So
They don't have Halliburton is the problem. The last thought I had on Wemby was it's just like it's funny that this 7'6" monster has come on the scene and just now it's like, oh, he's going to be the greatest player of all time. Because like we just came out of this era where like Steph Curry kind of made everyone feel like they could be an NBA superstar, because it was just like, oh, he's short relative to the NBA. He's a short guy. And he kind of reinvented the game. I think people give him way too much credit for this because the 3-point revolution was happening with or without him, and he just kind of came along at the perfect time.
And like he wasn't alone in that too. Like Dame was also like really pressing that as well.
Well, the Daryl Morey Rockets too, like as a team taking 53s a game, and
right. But I'm talking about that. Hey, the 40-foot jump shot is actually a legitimate shot. Like,
yeah. But Curry kind of came through and made kids feel like, oh, well, anybody could be an NBA superstar. Look at Steph Curry. And he actually has a movie out that's kind of about that right now, an animated movie called GOAT.
The fact that you could watch Steph Curry and be like, anyone can be him, like, that's your takeaway?
Like, I mean, maybe not anyone, but like Steph was more like, more of a regular body type. And it's just like, wow, he just worked really, really hard. And if I work hard enough, maybe I could make the NBA too. Victor Wembanyama is like, I don't give a fuck how hard you work. You will never be 7'6" and fluid like him. There will never be another. And that's it. And we are going back into, he is the tallest player in the league and also the best player in the league. And the rest of you just don't even try because he's going to block your shit. Like, there's nothing you can do.
Obviously, it's unique that he's that size, right? But the fact that he is that size and is able to move his body the way that he does is it breaks the mind. Like, that shouldn't be possible. It shouldn't be allowed. He needs to be shot directly into the sun. And
this is the answer for how we beat him. Yeah, Marley, I was talking to Marley about it the other day, and she asked me that. She's like, is he just so good because he's tall, or is he good? And I'm like, it's all of the things. It's all of the things. He's so tall and fluid for that height. We've never seen someone that's that tall be able to move like he moves on a basketball court. Because we've had other dudes. We had like Bol, and Manute Bol, and these guys who were over 7 feet tall. And like even Zach Edey is in the league right now, and he's 7'3" or whatever, 7'4", 7 whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not fluid. They can't run like Victor does. They can't dribble. They can't shoot. They can't do all of the things that he does on a basketball court. And that's what makes him so singularly unique. But let's talk about the other conference finals for a minute too, where it's 32-31 Oklahoma City right now. So we'll see how the rest of this one goes.
Adam, it's real funny what happens when the Cavs don't shoot more free throws than the other team.
I knew this was coming. Yeah, it's funny because all of the foul baiting that James Harden did in that Pistons series, watching like Jalen Brunson do it to the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, I was just like, this is karma.
This is karmic justice.
This is karmic justice to have to get eliminated. And Jalen Brunson just going on like an all-time heater. So, I don't know if people listening to this podcast watched it, but the Cleveland Cavaliers had a 22-point lead with 7 minutes left and proceeded to blow it. Teams leading by 20 or more in the fourth quarter prior to last night were like 4 and 764 or something like that in the playoffs, or 3 and 764 or something like that. So it's extremely rare to see a 20-point fourth quarter comeback. really at any time, but especially in the playoffs and especially this deep in the playoffs. And it just brings me back to the same point I've been making for years, is that the Cleveland Cavaliers are just the pants shittingest team that we have in modern NBA history. And they looked at that. They said, we shit our pants every single year in the playoffs. We should trade Darius Garland for James Harden. And I know Cleveland is in the Eastern Conference Finals, but James Harden has been shitting his pants for over a week now. And again, last night, another game where he had more turnovers than field goals made.
Yeah, I mean, Game 7 against the Pistons was the first game in the series where they legitimately played better basketball. The other 3 wins that they got were given to them in some fashion or another. And so, I mean, if you like really look at how they got where they are, like, it's really hard to justify the move. Like, with what we knew before and what we know now. He was the target for Jalen Brunson too. Like, he was actively
for almost
going at.
Like the entire, I think it was like a 26-4 run that the Knicks went on in the last 7 minutes of that game. Almost the entire run was Jalen Brunson targeting James Harden.
And
they're thinking about
Kenny
extending
Atkinson
him.
is specifically stating that he wouldn't do anything differently.
Yeah. I text you this the other day before the series started, and it was interesting because for 3 quarters and 5 minutes of that game, I was like, wow, maybe I was completely wrong about this series. And then the last like 7 minutes of that game in overtime, I was like, nope, I was right. Here we go. I think the Knicks present a lot of really difficult matchup issues for Cleveland specifically, if you're going to have Donovan Mitchell and James Harden on the floor at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you like, neither of those guys can guard Brunson.
Nope.
And obviously, like we said, for the last 7 minutes, Brunson just targeted James Harden over and over and over again. And if your 2 like smallest players can't guard Brunson, that means you have to put like whoever's in that 3rd spot. So like Max Strus and Sam Merrill and Dean Wade, all of those guys. One of those guys has to be the primary defender on Brunson, which means that Harden and Mitchell have to be on guys like Miles Bridges and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart, or, you know, they tried, I think it was Harden they put on Cat for a little bit while he was playing out on the perimeter. Like, having 5 guys who can attack and like to various degrees of success, because OG Anunoby like really looked like he was coming off an injury last night offensively, like not great from the eye test, but like you can't, there is nowhere to hide Harden. And what they did last night was like they were putting him on, you know, the Harts and the OG Anunobys of the world, and then Brunson was just getting him in switches every single time and was like, okay, here we go. Time to hunt. And that did kind of come to fruition. And then like on the other side of the floor, they have to be really careful with their lineups they play, because like you have OG Anunoby, Miles Bridges, and Josh Hart. Like you have multiple long wings who can give Harden and Mitchell a hard time. And then, you know, you're playing those 2 guys, and then it's either like Merrill, Wade, or Strus, and that's probably the guy that Brunson is going to get hit on defensively. But they're having trouble getting Brunson in switches because they have 2 or 3 long wings who switch the switch, basically. So like they try to get Brunson in a switch, but then OG switches off his guy, and like they're constantly moving around so that Harden and Mitchell are defended by like one of these bigger wings at all times. You know, so it's interesting. It's like, you know, are you going to give the ball to Sam Merrill to attack Jalen Brunson? No. But again, another game where Mitchell and Harden completely disappear when things got tough. And there's been numerous reports that the Cavs are looking at extending both of them for massive money. And I just like, you've been making the point that like Cleveland basically stole that series against Detroit because the free throw discrepancy was so high. And I just wonder if it hadn't been for them beating Detroit. Like, so, in your mind, the rightful score of that series is probably 4-1 or 4-2 Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, if that had happened, does Cleveland look in the mirror and say, like, okay, we need to make some kind of major change? But, like, since it didn't happen and they beat Detroit and go to the Eastern Conference Finals, they're like, fuck it, we got to run the whole thing back. Let's extend everybody. And I think that, like, making super results-oriented decisions like that, where it's like, well, we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. That means we're almost there. Like, we have to bring everybody back. We don't have any other choices. I think that's where you, like, really, really fuck up.
I mean, I think we know that Dan Gilbert is a very emotional owner. When LeBron James originally left the Cavs, he did not respond well in a number of ways. And on the flip side of that, as a really emotional owner, like, he spent plenty of his own money buying tickets and busing his fans to Detroit to fill up the stadium. The other flip side of that is, oh, hey, we made it out of the second round. Let's financially commit to these two guys that have never really been able to go far in the playoffs long term in ways that will certainly make it incredibly difficult for us to move their deals.
Yeah, well, right now they have $222 million committed for next season, including James Harden's team option of $42 million. But this core they have of Mobley, Mitchell, Harden, and Allen, they're paying what, 50? So it's 142 plus, it's like $170 million for those four guys next season. And you're talking about declining Harden's team option and giving him an extension. And that doesn't include Dean Wade, who's going to be a free agent, Keon Ellis, I guess Keon's not playing anyway, but I don't understand how anybody could watch the Cavs this postseason, even though they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and say, yes, let's lock ourselves into this long term.
Yeah.
And I guess it really depends on what your goal is as an organization. Are you trying to win an NBA championship? Then you have to make some decisions. But if you're just trying to, win 50 games a year and fill up your arena and get that playoff revenue and be in the conversation and stuff like that, then yeah, lock yourself into this team, because that's all this team is ever going to be, is probably a second round exit most years. They made it to the, third round this year, but I think we saw last night that even in a game that they were dominating for 85% of the game, it's not safe, because you have added big time pant shitting players to the pant shittingest team in the league.
I mean, we saw it in the previous series. It's there are multiple games, whether or not they ended up winning, where they blew a 20-plus point lead to Detroit. I believe one of those games, Cade turned around and was like, all right, I'm just going to give the ball to you 2 times in a row. But
there was a play in Game 7 where Jared Allen fell on the floor, and then Cade threw it directly to him on the floor, and I was like, this is not going well.
Yes. Those are the plays that happened all the way throughout the series, where I'm just I don't have any right to hold you to this high of a standard, given that you had a punctured lung a month ago. But God, am I so pissed at you right now.
Yeah, but to be fair to Cade, I really still think that the Pistons getting eliminated in round 2 is a roster construction issue. And part of it is like you expected to have Malik Beasley and have another like awesome shooter this year, and that obviously didn't happen. But like there's no one to take the pressure off of Cade. I went and looked up Cade's playoff usage percentage, and it is only 32.4%, which sounds like ridiculously low to me, because watching the game, he had the ball every single offensive possession. Every single time except for the small pockets of time where Sasser took over, they would get the ball up the court, wait for him. He's coming off of like, he has guys stuck to him. So he's coming off of like multiple screens, running around, just trying to get to the point where he can even catch the ball from one of his teammates. And then he's like ISOing, over and over again. And it's just like that load is too much for any one player. Even in like the finals where the Mavs went to the finals and lost to the Celtics, Luka wasn't even carrying that type of load that they were asking Cade to carry in that series. And I think it showed up in that, like, yeah, there was stupid, like sloppy turnovers. There was also just numerous plays where it seemed like Cade wasn't paying attention on defense, which is very unlike him because he is a good defender, where it's just like, and I text you this during the series, is like the Pistons just got to the point where they were not doing all of the little things you need to do to win a basketball game. And it just like seemed like they were exhausted.
Well, and the roster construction thing too, that I think everyone is overlooking is, and Trajan kind of alluded to this in his press time, like they expected Jaden Ivey to come back to who he was when he got back on the floor. Now, they did not foresee him needing another, like a knee surgery, shortly before the season that prolonged all that and messed everything up. But like, that was the answer that they had in house, right? Like they had the answer there. And then obviously it didn't work out, right? Like not only was he not himself when he came back, but like he wasn't able to get on the floor. Clearly some mental health issues, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. But yeah, so I mean now they're in the position of, okay, we've kind of got to bank on Dennis Jenkins developing into that guy, which the good news is he's flashed the potential. So
I think Sasser's got to be the guy. Like, Sasser was so good during certain points of that series. But it's not, and I'm not like blaming them because I think there are numerous factors. Like you said, the Ivy thing, I mentioned Malik Beasley, like there's numerous factors that led to them not having the roster that they believe they would have at this point. But like, especially if Jalen Duren is going to play the way that Jalen Duren played in these playoffs, you just don't have enough guys who can consistently put the basket in the bucket. Right. And then when you have an issue like the other team is getting more free throws than you, the Pistons had no margin of error for that to happen, especially not to the degree at which it did happen in that series where Cleveland shot 74 more free throws than them over the course of the series. Something like that. The Cavs shot more in every game, but it wasn't like super duper drastic. Like I think it was like game 3 where the Cavs shot like 24 or 25 more free throws or something like that. It wasn't like that every game.
There were a couple of games where they were like +5, +7, and then there were games that they were like, I think there was one that they were like +22.
Yeah.
And then there were ones that...
Yeah, it was like game 3. It was like +20 something.
Yeah, and then there were other games where they were like +15. And it's like...
But you
in a
like,
playoff game, like that is the difference in the game.
Yeah, for sure. Well, especially because your team can't afford that margin of error. It's not like, oh, we're the Warriors and we can shoot 15 less free throws than you, but we're just going to hit 10 more threes. It just wasn't there in that series. So like they definitely need to add someone, unless like Dennis Jenkins or Marcus Sasser is going to take a massive step forward. They need to add like like a Dosunmu or Malik Monk is someone we've talked about numerous times on this podcast to help like have a secondary creator or more secondary creators. Jalen Duren like flat out just has to be better as like that.
100%. That's
just unacceptable. And that's the thing with the Pistons this summer. I was looking at their payroll here. They have space. So they have $133 million committed. You could get out of Paul Reed and Duncan Robinson if you wanted to. Watching what I just watched,
I wouldn't.
Absolutely do not want to do that.
Yeah.
But Tobias Harris, Kevin Huerter, their contracts are up. Obviously, the Jalen Duren extension is going to be a massive point of contention amongst Detroit fans.
It is, and my God, this offseason, the thing that is going to kill me is the fact that Pistons fans still cannot get off of Lauri Markkanen's dick. Like, they're still on that shit. Which, now that they've got the number 2 pick in this draft, potentially number 1, they have no reason to trade him. Why would they? Because now they're gonna try to win. Like,
yeah, you're not getting Lauri Markkanen.
Not that I think he's a good fit. Like, I think defensively, he would be such a liability for the style that we play.
Yeah, but the whatever number Duren ends up at is going to be like one of the defining factors of what this Pistons team becomes in the next couple of years. Because like all season, it was like, oh, this dude is locked in for a max extension, $43.7 million a year, like book it. And then he's played his way out of that. But the question is, what is he going to get? Like there's been some rumors of like being in the low $30 million per season. But my question is, he's going to be a restricted free agent. So the Pistons could match whatever he gets out on the open market. Is anybody offering him $30 million a year this offseason?
Yes. Because that is...
My thing is...
No, that is the average starting center money. But he put up 19 and 10, made an all-star team. Like, I know that right now, like, everyone's gonna say, but look at the playoffs. And there's gonna be a team that is like, yeah, but we don't have a player of that caliber, so we're gonna do that.
Yeah. That's fair, but also like that $30 million number for average starting center salaries, a lot of those contracts were signed before they put in this like 2-apron system. So I think that salaries are going to start getting naturally suppressed anyway. Yeah. Now that we're like negotiating in this new era where it's like, oh God, we really cannot go over this number. So like,
yeah, but Şengün wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. But I think like not only is the number he signs for really important, but also the order of operations that the Pistons do this in, because if they want to add other guys,
no, he has to be last.
He kind of has to be last. And this is the thing where this is what the Beam Team Kings did wrong that fucked stuff up, is like they had to do the Sabonis extension. But if they would have waited on the extension, they could have signed other guys first and then used like the bird rights to sign Sabonis to the extension. And instead they're just like, yeah, we're going to sign Sabonis to the extension. And they added nothing. So they like make the playoffs, they add absolutely nothing, and then they end up sucking. And the Pistons have some like very big needs they need to address as far as like secondary creation. And you don't have to spend $1 billion, on that stuff. But it's like the order of operations is going to be important if you want to add like a Monk or a Dosamu or like whoever you want to try to add this offseason.
I'm still very interested in a CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
I know it's not a long-term fix, but like we have the young guys on the roster. Like there's your secondary ball handler, there's your secondary scorer,
there's someone
your veteran presence.
Put the biscuit in the basket. Yeah.
Right? Like it's a hell of a lot harder to do what they were doing to Cade when you have a guy who for a good part of that first round series was scaring the shit out of the Knicks.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too, is if you have like a CJ McCollum, you're like, oh, please do what you're doing to Cade because it's going to open up the floor for our other guy who can score at a high level. So, yeah, like someone like that's interesting, but they have to do it in the right order as well to like make the roster improvements, then get Duren in there. And part of me is like, does a team like the Chicago Bulls, who's in your division and has cap space, is there any potential for them to just be like, we'll give you the max extension, Duren, and then just like stare down the Pistons and be like, match it, Detroit. Do it. We dare you.
Yeah. So what I do fear is
it's a really dangerous game of chicken to play when you have the second apron stuff, though. I don't know if teams will be as willing to play that as they used to be.
I can't remember which player it was the Kings had, but I want to say it was the Hawks that did it to you guys, but like, because everyone brings up it was Bogdanovich.
Bogdanovich with the Hawks.
Yeah. Like everyone keeps bringing up sign and trade, and like if you let them sign the offer that another team has, what's to stop that team from putting a poison pill in that deal?
Yeah. And that's what the Hawks did, is they put in a trade kicker for Bogdanovich, where they're like, oh, if you trade him, his salary goes up by like 25% or something like that. And so we just didn't match it because we're just like, well, we can't sign and trade him now. That whole situation was so fucked up, though, and I hate Bogdanovich because we had a sign and trade with him already agreed to, and he was going to Milwaukee, and him and his agent were in on it and had already agreed, like, yeah, we're going to go to Milwaukee and get the extension. And then Atlanta started crying, and they're like, well, we didn't know that. We would have given him a bigger contract. And him and his agent were like, wait, we could have gotten a bigger contract from Atlanta? So those like stupid motherfuckers didn't do their due diligence on the market. And then like Atlanta comes in last minute and they're like, we would have given you more money. And it wasn't even that much more. And so they like leak that we were tampering out to the league, and the whole thing got canceled and fucked up, and things that only happen to the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like teams are going to be as willing to like play those games with the second apron stuff, especially because like with Jalen Duren, the way he just performed in the playoffs, if you play that game and if you're like the Bulls, just use them as an example, and you're like, yeah, we're going to offer him, they can't offer him the $43 million that the Pistons can, but they can offer him it's like high 30s, I think, max extension. And it has one less year. But if they're like, we're going to offer you the max, and they're like, match it, Detroit, and Detroit's like, well, okay, like we'll pivot and we'll do something else. Like it sucks to lose him. And then the Bulls, you just have this guy on your roster during a rebuild that you're now paying like $38 million a year to. And you're just like, well, that kind of sucks.
I still think he's going to be much more highly valued by teams than fans, because fans are looking at that performance and not even remotely considering that he's fucking 22. I'm sorry, I was pretty fucking immature at 22 years old.
Yeah, I think like there's the same thing we say with rookies in the NFL is like, if you're not awesome immediately, then you suck. And there is no allowance for
Yeah.
like getting better. But I think that's going to be the fear with him is like, okay, is this a learning curve or is this like a thing? And all eyes are going to be on him the Pistons next playoff run next year because they're going to be like, whoa. Yeah.
As is literally every transaction or lack of making a transaction in professional sports, right?
You know, it's also
every
a
single
risk.
thing is a risk.
What's also a risk is letting him go somewhere else, and then it turns out that he just needed to grow and that he's awesome in the playoffs. And you're like, oh, well, we had that guy and we let him go. And I think that teams are much more willing to make the mistake of like, let's keep our guy and hope he develops rather than let's let him go and watch him flourish somewhere else. It's like that's like the biggest fear that someone has is that like we drafted this guy, we developed this guy, we let him walk and he's awesome somewhere else. So I don't see that happening. He's going to be a Piston long term. Just a question of how much money and when they do it, because they got to add the other guys first.
They need to address the 4 spot. I love Tobias Harris. Like he in both stints on the Pistons has filled really, really important roles on these teams. He cannot be our starting power forward next year. He just can't. Would love to have him off the bench if the numbers are right, but like cannot be that guy.
You know who you guys should trade for? Lauri Markkanen.
God. If they would be willing to move up in the draft for like Lindeborg.
Oh, if the Pistons were willing to move up?
Yeah.
I keep seeing stuff on Reddit about like, should the Kings move down? And I'm like, I'm going to kill myself if we do that. Like, there was a report that was like, oh, the Thunder are willing to package like, I think they have like 12, 17, and like 30, 31, 32. Got to find out where they're going to be or 28, whatever, however many teams there are. I always forget. But they're willing to package like 3 first-round picks to trade up. And people are like, wow, should we like take 12, 17, and 30 for 7? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That will be the end for me. Trading up to get Darius Acuff is going to be one thing. Trading back is, I'm done. I'm done if we trade back.
Also,
that's it.
Really? You're going to help OKC? You're going to help OKC?
Yeah. Right. You're just
that's what you want to do.
You're like, you know what OKC needs is Kingston Flemings. Here you go, OKC. But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com, and you can watch the podcast on YouTube. Look up Fouled Out Sports. Give us a like and subscribe over there to help us grow that. Matt and I will be back, same Fouled Out time, same Fouled Out place next week, talking about whatever happens next in these conference finals. Oklahoma City is up 62-51 with 10 seconds left in the second half as we are hanging up here. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I expect this to be a good bounce back game for them. And then shit is going to get wild when we go back to San Antonio. So I'm really looking forward to that. And until then, Matt, I will see you later.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Robin.